All right. Welcome back to another great episode of Secure Out Podcast. As always, I'm your host, Denny Caballero, and today I have the pleasure of bringing you Israel Wright. Israel, how are you, man?
Doing good, man. Thanks for having me. This is awesome.
Absolutely, dude. This whole platform is served as it started as a project to kind of bridge the gap, bring the reality of like what it takes to survive after breaking apart, how resilience is made, because we live this myth that soft professionals don't break down. We don't break apart. We don't struggle. And that's not the truth. And then along the way, developed this idea that maybe we should help our transitioning service members by highlighting how everybody goes through this process. It's not the same for everybody. We all have different passions, different avenues of approaching this, but we need to highlight the successes. We need to highlight the individuals that are willing to go out into the unknown and achieve success, no matter how non-standard it is. And you're a shining example of that.
And, oh God, no pressure.
It's cool because no matter what you go through, it's an example for everybody, whether it's,
right,
what to do or what not to do. No one's going to do this journey flawlessly and not have those moments of, oh, fuck, oh, shit. And that's a reality of it. And we need to start promoting it and showing it because we don't do a good enough job of showing what success can look like. I was a victim of it. I wanted to think that it was going to be just this wonderful rainbow bridge and there was going to be no hiccups. And that's not the truth. So the more we normalize this process and show people that you can be successful and exceed and excel, just like you did in the Q course, we give hope to everybody that's still in there. So Israel, dude, tell us about your journey.
Where do you want to start? I guess maybe we could start it when I joined the military. We can kind of do the Cliff Notes version.
Okay, take it all the way back to the very beginning.
Yeah. I guess, a beginning is a very delicate time, as the book says. But no, man, I joined, me personally, in terms of my military experience, I joined in 2005, February 2005. Is when I left for basic training out of LA MEPS. And I originally had a plan to go Ranger. I had a Ranger contract, an option 40 contract. And after I got to basic training, I met a few guys that were reclassing to go to the Q course. They're getting ready to go to the SOPSI, Q course and stuff. That was when they were really trying to plus up all the numbers, and SF had really made a name for themselves, I think, in the beginning of Afghanistan, horse soldiers, the Northern Alliance, that kind of thing, and so Don Rumsfeld or one of those guys was like, we need a lot of Green Berets now. So they're adding battalions worth of guys to each group, So I was an 18 X-ray, or I was an option 40, and then halfway through basic, these guys who were going into the Q course, they did a really good job of describing what it was all about and selling it. My recruiter didn't come from that background, so they showed me the video that you show everybody, and I wanted to do something that was out there, something that was on the ground, and something that was fun and adventurous. I didn't want to be at a desk for a number of years in the military, and so I was like, oh, that's what I want to do. And so the Green Beret recruiter, the SF recruiter, came by, and they wouldn't let my drill sergeants were not happy about me wanting to change things. I guess they just, maybe they were lazy or maybe they didn't care. They're like, no, you don't want to do that. Just stick option 4. You're fine. So I remember I snuck out one night and I made a call to I left a message on his answering machine, said, hey, can you get my contract changed? And he was like the magical man that would show up out of nowhere. Like, I got your contract, and he came and signed it. And so we were off and running after that. So finished basic AIT airborne at Fort Benning. And then middle of the summer, drove with my buddies over to Bragg and did our SOPSI training, which was the prep course at the time before selection. And then you get another one before small unit tactics. And started the Q course, went there all the way through. I think I graduated in February 2007, February, March 2007. And then I went to Fort Lewis, Washington. So that was my duty station. I went to first group, and it was awesome. It was an amazing time. I wish that I had been more mature at the time. I know that I actually joined a little bit later. I joined after college. So this was 2 years after college. I was 24 when I joined. You'd like to think that would be when sure you're a little more mature at the time, but I was not. All that to say, it was a great opportunity and it was awesome. And I look back on it fondly, all the memories that I had, but I was just kind of like selfish and I didn't like people telling me what to do. And I didn't realize what I had in SF because I never did like a line unit and I was never in the infantry. I didn't have to deal with that authority structure like they do in infantry units. And so, I mean, I had a great time regardless. I went to Iraq in 2008. I was there for most of 2008, came back in January 2009, had a little mini deployment, a couple mini deployments to Cambodia, a couple weeks in Korea. Those were a lot of fun. And then I out processed and I officially ETS, or I was out of there active duty on December 22nd, 2009. So that was, I'd like to say I did about 5 years. Yeah. It was real quick in and out. SF, usually that's like a long, people start their career in the military and then they go to SF and they're like, that's where you finish it out. My buddy Dan, he did 20, he just finished 20, 21, 22 years in service, man. He had 8 deployments. He was like hardcore. And so like I looked up to people like him, but anyway, all that to say my time in the Army was very short. And then I got out in 2009, came to LA and I was going to be an actor, and that was when it going to be my thing. And I lived and I worked and I trained a little bit and I went for it. Every opportunity I got in the entertainment industry was because of my military experience. Because in LA, in the entertainment industry, you got to find a way to set yourself apart. Yeah. And more in the industry, it seems like somebody that looks like me has fewer and fewer opportunities. And so in 2019, I kind of had a change of heart, mostly just because I was getting older and nothing was really happening. And like, what am I to do? I still want to do entertainment related stuff. I love people. I love interacting with people. I love the human experience of all that. And so I thought, well, maybe I'd just been introduced to streaming from a friend who did it. I was like, that's amazing. You can just hang out online and play video games and talk to people. I could do that. And so I started doing that early 2020 on a dedicated basis. And then COVID hit and all the lockdowns happened. Yeah. And so it was actually kind of a fortuitous time because I was like, well, everybody was tuning in. Yeah, everyone's tuning in. They all got their government checks. So they got that money to spend, that excess income. And it was good. It was the heyday for a little while. And now afterwards, now that life has kind of returned to normal in most corners of the world, it's kind of, the community has evened out and those who wanted to stay have stayed. And so I'm very thankful. I'm thankful that anybody watches me stream. It's so weird, sometimes to think about. But as a friend of mine who is kind of a mentor for me in the streaming space said once, he's like, she said, you're already giving it what they want. Like when people make donations, I'm like, oh my God, what do I do now? She's like, you've already given it to them. You're there. You're a presence. You're lighthearted, uplifting, welcoming, kind of thing. And sometimes people just need to hear a friendly voice or whatever. So now I'm just very thankful and for what I get to do. And so nowadays, we're talking today, I have one YouTube channel I want to break into more video gaming space. Like I said, everything that I've had up to this point has been because of my military career, and I'm very thankful, endlessly thankful for that. But in terms of defining myself in the public space and having a career that I could really hold on to and call my own, I'm a nerd. I'm a gamer. I really enjoy all that stuff. And so if I could have a career in that, that's what I want to do. And so I got one channel now. Me and my partner are working on another channel to get started pretty soon here. And so I always want to have one foot, I feel, in the military community because I think it's good for the culture. I think about culture right now because culture shifts and culture changes and culture is influenced by a myriad of different things. And so I was like, well, I'm in that space. I want to use that space to influence culture because I think that there's some good foundational principles that can help people either whether they're a veteran or otherwise. So anyway, I'm very thankful to be in this community. So.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that there's a large group of not just soft individuals that come in and do 4 or 5 years, the atypical, non-standard, if you will, career. Hey, I'm going to try this. I'm going to go balls out for 4 years, and then I'm done with it. And the community looks down on it in a way. They look at it like, oh, dude, you just got here. You hear that all the friggin' time. You just got here. Now you're leaving. And then it kind of gives people the idea of like, oh shit, I should be ashamed. I should keep going. And then they do another year, they do another enlistment, and then they're finding themselves not passionate about service, but sort of like beholden to those figures they look up to. And you're not doing a service to the community or the individual by holding that grudge, by being that negative entity that's like, well, you need to put in your work. You need to do another 5 years. Who are you to say that? Like the individuals that constantly preach that idea, rather than being grateful that that person gave those 4 years, that they were a contributing team member. You put in your work. Back in those days in Iraq and Afghanistan in 2005, 2006, 2007, 8, 9, all the way up to 2010, for the conventional forces, that was a year-long deployment. For soft guys, what was it, like 9, 10?
9, 10, yeah, 9 months. Yeah, it was about what mine was in Iraq. Yeah, longer than normal. Yeah,
and the thing, and if it's not your passion, if it's not your thing, it's okay to say, dude, thank you for giving to the community. Thank you for earning this. You're forever part of the brotherhood. Go be successful again. But that's not always the message we get. When you made that decision, what did you experience in regards to, was there support? Because, transitioning in that time frame, I was in Iraq in 2008, 2007. And in those time periods, we had guys that were stop lost. So they were trying to leave before the deployment. They're like, sorry, dude. We had a guy that had got in serious trouble. And they're like, oh, no, you're not going to jail. We're going to deploy you. You're going to wear an orange jumpsuit and you're going to do details in Iraq.
Wow.
What the fuck?
Wow. That's crazy. That's a movie right there, man.
Dude, these dudes were walking around polishing the captured, anti-air guns in Iraq and eating MREs, not going to the chow, eating MREs for like an entire year deployment. And I'm like, I'm not a lawyer, but this seems fucking wrong. And the sergeant major of that unit was Command Sergeant Major Sturdivant. So if anybody wants to look that guy up and see if you can do anything against that asshole, feel free to do so.
That's crazy, man.
It's crazy. Oh, yeah, dude.
So when I made the decision, here's what I'll say. Nobody of consequence had a problem with what I was going to do. There were guys that would say, what are you doing? Like you say, what are you getting out for? Come on, hang out. And, but my team sergeant, Tom Williams, who's the greatest leader I've ever had the pleasure of serving with, really great, just a great leader of men. He knew how to lead. Right. Yeah. And he said, man, there's always a reason to stay in, whether it's a deployment or a bonus or a school you want to go to. You'll always have a reason to stay in. But if you got something you want to go do that. And I really appreciated that because I kind of wanted to get the double. I wanted to go to Iraq and Afghanistan.
Yeah.
It's just an arbitrary thing. I want to go to both places. And so I did Iraq, and they were getting ready to go to Afghanistan, and they were training up for it. And I was just like, for a lack of a better reason to stay, I was like, well, I'll just go. I'm going to go be an actor. I'm going to go do that, And so, yeah, there was, one or a couple of guys that were like, give me a hard time about it. But ultimately, the people that mattered were supportive. And so I'm thankful for that, because sometimes you look back, no matter what you do, I don't know, maybe not everybody's like this, but sometimes you think, man, could I have done that differently? Should I have stayed a little bit longer? Should I have done this, that, or the other thing? And it's just like, it doesn't do you any good. The past is past,
it doesn't.
And you got what you got. And be happy with that. And I practice that gratitude of, I'm glad I served. I'm glad I did this. I take credit for what I can. I don't take credit for anything that I didn't do. And so, yeah, it's the content creation stuff in the last couple of years, specifically having to do with military centric stuff. I got a podcast.
Yeah.
We had a couple of channels, Shiftfire, Gameology, Spec Ops React, that kind of stuff with my buddy Cameron Fath. I'm so thankful for, because I feel like I get to go back and appreciate again what I did and what I had, and put myself out there in that space and present myself as a military guy. And so I'm thankful. There's been people that have reached out, said, hey, thank you. You've influenced me to either join or not join, or pick myself up off the floor. I've struggled with this, that, or the other thing. And oh man, that touches me. And that's just, man, if at the very least I want to be entertaining, and at the very most, if I can help somebody just by my presence online, man, what a gift. That's great.
Yeah, absolutely. And it kind of helps with the identity piece, which is another thing that veterans struggle with for a long time. It's, you feel, I know for a lot of people, they make it that most important aspect of their life. But the reality is, in order to be healthy, in order to be able to really truly transition, you have to be able to walk that line of understanding that this is something that I used to do. This is not who I am. And it's a great to be able to represent that brand, be able to represent the regiment, but at the same time, doing it in a way that's authentic and true to who you are, and not feel like you're wearing that, Green Beret and uniform again and making it all about you, rather than promoting like, yeah, this is something great that I did, and this can be something that you can do too, and make it, you know, something to strive for, something to achieve that's attainable. Because I know you probably had the same ideas. You're hearing other people describe what it is to be special forces, but you don't really know it until somebody's there telling you and sharing with you the intimate details of it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's, in terms of, yeah, identity is huge. I think we're seeing it in the culture now. People are longing for identity, and they're longing for value and meaning.
Yeah.
And I guess we always will, because we need to have, we're born into this world not knowing who we are, literally. And we got to find out, because I think we all have that inherent drive to have meaning in our lives, and to have a sense of our place in the world. And being an SF, being in the military, it could be a powerful thing, a powerful identity, because there's so much structure and so much focus and so much meaning in it inherently, that I think is good, like in terms of the tradition and what the Army represents, what the military represents, right? And there's good stuff to take from that, but it's there has to be something transcendent that you can take with you and carry through to the rest of your life, to translate the rest of your life. Like the Army values, or I had a great experience when I was going through SOPSI to get ready to go to to selection. And the guy, he told the story, but it was about a story that he experienced, where a Green Beret had come into the classroom and used his beret to wipe the whiteboard down, and they're like, oh, scandalous, and he's like, hey guys, it's just a hat. And his point of saying that was that you can live out the values of a Green Beret, the silent professionals, you live those out every day with how you live, and what you say and what you do, and how you do the missions, and how you support your fellow service members. It's like the hat represents that, but it's not about the hat.
Yeah.
The hat represents something more transcendent, and so for guys that are transitioning out, or getting ready to transition, or have transitioned out, that would be something that I have thought about. I think it's helpful to mention. And that's the good news, right? You can take those with you. You can live out the values of a infantry soldier, or even a chemdet, or a transportation guy, or a mortarman, or a Green Beret, or a ranger. You can live those out, and that's and you don't have to have the uniform anymore. You don't have to, you don't have to work out all the time. You don't have to, do the kind of, like, there's a very public visual aesthetic, and there's Grunt Life, there's Jocko Willink, there's David Goggins, and all that kind of stuff, and there's nothing inherently wrong with any of those things, but I guess I would say, don't let the aesthetic, don't let the surface level stuff take the place of the more underpinning values that those things are supposed to represent.
Yeah.
And because I think that's, and I hope that that's encouraging to guys that are out there. I've spoken with a few dudes that struggle with some stuff afterwards, and Nate Boyer and MVP, and there's groups like that specifically focus on the transition, the afterwards, when you're not an elite athlete or an elite soldier anymore. It's you can take those with you, right? You can live those out, and that's good. That's encouraging. And then by virtue of that, you'll always have some piece of your service with you.
Yeah. A personal excellence can be a part of your next brand. It doesn't have to stop when you're wearing the uniform and beret. Take that along with you. Hold that accountability, that waking up every morning ready to hit it and go hard. That can be part of your next mission. Um, when you decided to go into this creative space, what was that journey like at the very beginning? How did you, I know for myself, like coming into this, there's like a lot of shock. There's a lot of like, oh shit, can I really do this? Can I really create this big mission? Can I really go after this? What were some of the things that you were facing when you decided, "All right, I'm gonna sit down, I'm gonna take this and go over and really do it?"
I mean, when you talk about the creative space, that's a really interesting space to go into because sometimes it can be hard to quantify, to measure, whether it's success or progress. Because you build furniture for a living, you can see the progress. It's very
Yeah.
easy to see. You got a table at the end of it, and that's really cool. Or real estate, these kind of things where there's a structure and there's a progression, and at the end of it, you've accomplished something. The creative process for me has been really difficult because I like seeing those things. I like lists. I like the easy. It's right in front of you. You completed it. It's done. I love doing the dishes, because I did that. I did the dishes today, and so that's been a real challenge for me, creating structure in my life, to create, to quantify that progress and then to give myself credit for it at the end of it. Listen, nothing changed in my office today. Nothing moved places, but I did work today because I did some research and I wrote down some ideas and I communicated with my business partner, and we didn't make a video or shoot anything, but progress was made today. And then for me personally, I have to learn how to really push myself to make more and then to give myself more credit. Really foundationally, man, I mean, if I'm being honest, I've had to, in more recent years, really question why I've
Mhm.
chosen to pursue a creative career. Because I come from a broken home. My childhood, my upbringing was very tumultuous and very chaotic and very full of strife and uncertainty and just brokenness, separation, moving around, all that kind of stuff, and that affects you. And I want anybody who's gone through that kind of same story to acknowledge that and give yourself a little bit of grace and a little bit of mercy for who you are today, because it was very affected by all of those things. Man, when I was a kid, all I wanted was for somebody to pay attention.
Yeah.
And here is acting, here's school plays, and here's acting. I even did some auditions when I was a little kid for some child acting stuff, and oh, it felt so good because I had people looking at me and validating me and complimenting me,
Yeah.
and that's carried through I was a theater major in college, and I've always wanted to be an actor. I got out of the military because I'm like, I'm going to go be an actor, and I've had to, in more recent years, really question, like, did I ever want to be an actor, or did I just need somebody to love me? Did I just need somebody to validate me and yeah, give me that thing that I never got because of my parents got divorced and I moved around so much, and I was the youngest of 4 kids, and so this, and now here I am. I'm in my 40s. I'm starting new YouTube channels. I'm in the middle of a streaming career. It's all creatively based stuff, but I'm having to really go back and question the initial motivations for
Mhm.
why I ever wanted to do it in the first place. And the answer is still yes. Like I've had to purify my desires for why I want to do this. I can still do it. I can still do entertainment based content, and there's still joy and excitement, and there's challenges too. But I hope that my desires have become purified, because it's not just what you do, it's why you do it.
Yeah.
And that's where I think the fulfillment can come in, because if you're doing something, it might outwardly be successful and productive and even helpful to people. But there's a missing element, I think, if you're doing it for the wrong reasons. And
100%.
yeah, and so that's kind of that decision. It's these decisions, because it's kind of like, well, I'm going to do this because I've always wanted to do this, and then I started to question my motives when I would get easily defeated at challenges that would come up. Things
Mm.
would go wrong, things wouldn't go my way, and I'd be so discouraged. And part of that is just kind of emotional maturity, things that I've had to work on within myself that have nothing to do with being creative. But it's also like, man, shouldn't I be more motivated than this? Shouldn't I want this more? It's like, why don't I want this more than I do? And so I've had to go back and just be honest with myself and just go through that process of questioning. And if you come through that, if you go through that process and you find out, hey, this isn't what I want to do, that's fine. No matter how old you are, it's never too late to kind of pivot and switch positions, I don't think. But if you do come through and you can purify those desires, I feel like I've started that process. Then it can be more satisfying and more fulfilling, and also I think ultimately more entertaining and more uplifting and more beneficial to the people you're trying to entertain.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm so glad you just shared that, because one of the things that I've discovered in this project speaks to your experience as well as my experience. A vast majority of the soft professionals I've met all come from a very, very, very broken childhood with adversity. And that leads us, in my opinion, it's what leads us to want to be the protectors, to be the ones to stand up. And it's not just like 1, 2, not even 10 more. And in my own course of healing, in my own journey, I found out that is a unifying, connecting thing within a vast majority of our soft professionals. And what you just shared about the adversity you went through as a child being the primary motivator of wanting to have that attention. You have a childhood where you're not acknowledged, that you feel left out, you feel abandoned. Well, throughout the rest of your life, there's going to be a theme. You're going to constantly search for that validation. But we can do the work. We can do that deep, impactful work to figure out, okay, I can satisfy this need. I can understand and give myself what I need and heal through this. And then that will empower our journey as a creator to be more fulfilling, more rewarding. Because then instead of waiting for that validation from an outside source, no, it's coming purely from what we want to share. It's coming, and I 100% get it. There are those days where like nobody's fucking downloading, nobody's fucking listening. But you know what? There's 1 or 2 people that get the message, that resonate with what you're saying. And the world is better for what you're putting out there, because it's not just glitzy and glamour, just pointless crap that you're throwing out there. You're putting something of value and of purpose, and it's meaningful. And then you understand your new mission. Then you understand it's just like being in Iraq and Afghanistan. When it's like, oh shit, is this mission worth fighting for? Hell yeah, it's worth fighting for. We're going to make a difference for that village and those people over there. Nobody's going to know about it in fucking history books. For today, in this mission, in this fucking day and age, like, we're going to stay the course. We're going to hold the line, and we're going to go back successful. Nobody will know about it, but it doesn't fucking matter. The mission's what matters. And that's what's truly really important about getting into this space. If you have a mission or something that you're powerful, really wanting to share with the world, be willing to go into it. And in that journey, in that creative space, you're going to find out a lot about yourself, and be willing to say, oh shit, okay, maybe I need to dig up some resources, and maybe I need to go talk to somebody and satisfy this. Because that's something that we're all going to go through in life and realize, whether it's working at a company or doing your own business, at some point, something's going to pop up, and be willing to pull the thread and ask for help. I know I did, and that made a difference. It made a huge difference, and it made everything that I do now so much better. Because the one thing about being a mental health advocate, if you're not willing to get fucking help, you're not going to be of service to fucking anybody.
Yeah, it's true, man. I think the power of social media these days, and the danger is that we have access to so much more, so many more stories, and so many more different perspectives, and so just to be able to put a little bit out there of myself. There's the saying, you being authentically you empowers other people to be authentically themselves, right?
Yeah.
And so, like you say, being willing to step out there and be vulnerable, or give a truthful expression, even if somebody doesn't agree with you, or they don't get that 1-to-1 translation of that's like me, or I think like that, or just seeing you do it, can kind of maybe shake things up for somebody out there and get them to think about, oh, maybe I can reach out, or maybe I can do this endeavor, or get help. And that help can come in a lot of different forms. I'm not a therapist, but I've had people reach out to me and say, hey, thank you for doing what you do and creating the content you create, because it kind of helped me. It was just like something that helped me just a little bit to get through the next day. Yeah. And then they go get help, and they get actual, if they need clinical help or social help or even spiritual help, they'll sometimes just getting to the next day is really an accomplishment. We talk about success, you got to define success, right? And there's no one definition for success. It depends on what you're doing and what you want. And there's a lot of different factors that can define that for you. And that's good. That's encouraging, because sometimes you realize that you've been defining yourself according to somebody else's definition of success, right?
Yeah.
You took that on, somebody influenced you or said something or did something, or over the course of your life, you came to believe that success has to look like this. And if it doesn't look exactly like that, well, then I'm not successful. And we internalize a lot of that kind of stuff too, in terms of our identity and our value. So, yeah, it's good. It's good to know that you define success, and it's not necessarily what somebody else's success looks like.
Yeah, dude. And that brings me up to a great question. How are you defining success on this journey and being able to scale it, right? Because a lot of people think that it's like, okay, this is my definition of success and it stays like this forever. I have to have this. This is my definition. Whereas if you scale it and make it more of a metric that you can reach on a daily basis, that's infinitely more rewarding.
Yeah. For me personally, I've tried really hard, and I continue to try really hard to separate my value, my inherent value in life, from the success, my definitions of success. I'm a Christian, and my value comes from there. It comes from knowing Christ and following him. And so there's that transcendent value that I think we're all kind of looking for. And so that hasn't been real to me for most of my life. I could say I grew up in a Christian environment, or I grew up going to church or whatever, but I had to believe that for myself, Yeah. And that's because that's what it's really all about. So I grow in that, hopefully every day, somewhat. But right now, I mean, I want to, that way, I think my desire has been purified to define success as just being, getting as big as possible, right? I want to have as many followers and as many subscribers as possible, because I like what I do and it's fun what I do. And I think other people will be entertained by it. And I think it's good for the culture, not in like an arrogant way, or that I'm like it's like a big message kind of thing, like a certain political or social or even spiritual message necessarily, but to have lighthearted entertainment that is, I don't think, inherently divisive is, I think, a good goal these days, because a lot of entertainment in the popular culture space, I think, is divisive. I think it is message driven, social, political, message driven. And I want to find as many spaces or as many ways in which we can come together, even if they're superficial entertainment ways. If we can come together over this, maybe we can come together over some other stuff. Or if right now in this space, it's not about skin color, orientation, identity, expression. It's just about we all love Helldivers 2. Like, we all love this video game, right? We're just hanging out, we're chatting about just regular stuff, It's that kind of water cooler talk and lightheartedness. I know it's not everything, and I know it's just entertainment, but I think it is good. I think it is positive for the culture. So I want to be as successful as possible. I want to have as many followers and subscribers as possible. And I can say that because I know that at the end of the day, I'm still going to be who I am. I still have inherent value. I'm a son of God. I'm a husband to a beautiful wife. And there's other pursuits that I have that don't get any media attention, but that I believe in and I think are good for the culture as well. And so in terms of success in this public space, YouTube, podcast, live streaming and stuff, I want to be as big as possible. Why not? Because I need something to shoot for. I need a goal. I need a reason to get up in the morning, and it makes me feel good to think, what if I could be that guy? I could be the Markiplier. I could be the Jacksepticeye. I could be the ninja, you know? And I know that there's challenges that come with that, but hopefully at the end of the day, no matter how successful or unsuccessful I am in reaching that goal, I still know who I am, you know, and
Dude.
it's not connected to my career success, you know? So I want to be big.
Yeah. Dude, you just, you brought up something that I love talking about now more than ever. I think more people have gotten very bold and have finally started talking about it a lot more. Faith, mind, body, and spirit, 3 spheres that we as SOC professionals, as veterans, as first responders have to really cultivate in order to heal, in order to be our best selves, in order to be prepared to take on all those challenges we take on life. Have you always been a Christian? Have you always followed faith? How does it play in your life now?
I mean, my background, when I was a kid, I could say I grew up going to church, grew up reading the Bible. My parents gave me good stuff. Like, despite their flaws and their failings, they gave me good seeds for my faith later on. And I could say from my perspective, I know that God has always had his hand on me and guided me to where he wanted me to go, even especially in the military. But I would say that in terms of my Christianity, I came to faith sometime when I was in the military, because I was removed from everything that I knew, everything familiar, every other outside influence, and I was just alone. And I would go to chapel during basic training, or I would go to a church when I was out at Fort Bragg, but I just did it because that's what I'd always done. And I started being like, I really, why am I doing this? And I really have to do it because I believe it, not because I'm kind of borrowing my family or my parents' faith or habits or whatever. And so I was stationed at Fort Lewis, and I went to a church. It's just funny because the pastor actually, in Christianity today, there's a lot of controversy. There's pastors who fall, they fail, they get taken down for things that they're doing behind the scenes and stuff. And I mean, I'm okay with that. But I have to, this guy, Mark Driscoll, he went to Mars Hill, Seattle up there. And I really learned a lot from him, because he was all about being a Christian man. Like, what does it mean? What does manhood mean from the biblical perspective? I was really challenged by that. How you treat women, and how you treat younger people, and how you treat everybody. And then a couple of years later, he had to step down because of like some charges and stuff. So, but God makes straight lines with crooked sticks. So, so I did get some influence from that. So it's been a journey ever since then, and it's become more and more important to me in my life. Now it's cornerstone, and it's essential, and it touches every aspect of my life, from the kind of content that I want to create, even if it's not explicitly sort of like religiously message based, to my politics, to my social views, to the people I associate with. It has to, because I think any value system has to cross every aspect of your life. Otherwise, I would question whether or not you actually believe what you believe. And I respect anybody across the aisle that are doing destructive things to our society that I disagree with. They're out there in the streets, and they're pushing, and they're influencing society. And so that has challenged me in my faith to ask myself, what am I really willing to go to the mat for? What hill am I really willing to die on in any area? And so, I have to let my faith, my belief in Jesus Christ, I have to let that influence every aspect of my life, because it demands nothing less. And if you're going to give yourself fully to a belief system, you better be willing to believe it fully, and go to the mat for it, because maybe you just don't actually believe it, or maybe you're just trying to make yourself feel good,
Absolutely.
So
Dude, I think the amazing thing is we're constantly advocating for positivity and good morals to be displayed where our youth go to. What better place to go do that than where they're actually going to Twitch, to YouTube. And we're constantly angry and creating outrage, but we're not combating it. And we're not saying like, And all it is having the ability and the strength and the tenacity to go to those places, to do the things that they're actually going to be geared to. Like if you enjoy playing video games and you're a positive male role model, or and you want to be able to be a positive uh, version or antithesis to what you're seeing, go in those spaces and create. Go be willing to sit in those places. Like I don't know a single veteran or active service member that doesn't enjoy playing video games, especially Call of Duty. Like that was the bread and butter that raises. I remember playing local friggin' LAN parties before we had this, the advent of wireless gameplay. Like, dude, video games are part of our military culture.
Yeah.
If you're a strong individual that has great positivity to give in those spaces, be willing to do it. And you're one of those people that are actually doing it. And I want to ask you, like, when you are playing these games, how great does it feel to be a positive voice, to be able to sit there and create a space of like, dude, like we're being able to connect and share positivity rather than being just another negative voice in this echo chamber.
No, I mean, it's a big responsibility. And I say that because obviously it's fun to play video games, but I think you have to, here's what I'll say, man. Men got to be men.
Yeah.
And I think that there's a very specific place for strong men to be in culture today. And I'm not saying that like I'm there, you know what I mean? I'm saying that as a challenge to myself, because sometimes we want the the influence or the rewards without the responsibility.
Yes.
And, yeah. and I've had to confront that because, because of various factors in my life, I do not like conflict. I do not like confrontation, but I've been it's been forced into my life, in a lot of, in some different ways in the past, some past experiences. And so, it feels great. And I want to give myself credit to say that it may be fun and lighthearted, but I think it is important because everything has the potential to influence culture. And like you say, there's a place for calling things out and bringing things into the light and maybe making a stink or something every once in a while. But what are you going to do after that? Right. Yeah. And everybody's playing the game. Nobody gets to sit out on the sidelines. If you're sitting out on the sidelines, then you take away from whatever side you might be willing to help, and that's not good. And I'm not saying everybody has to. There's a different, just like a team, an ODA, just like the military. There's a place for everybody. And if you're in a public space like you or I, if you're making entertainment like myself, that's one part of it. But if you're somebody that just wants to support, or if you maybe in your own life you're just somebody that just don't want to say anything that's not true, and you can't say something that you believe is not true, even that helps, so it's great. I really am thankful for what I get to do, and I'll always be thankful that, like you say, if one person is influenced by me in a good way, a morally good way, if they're uplifted a little bit, then man, the reward is all right there. Now, obviously, with what we do, or somebody in the entertainment business, there has to, I want to support my wife, right? And I want to be successful in the monetary sense. And so you have to balance those two. You have to adhere to your values while still pursuing a capitalistic kind of end goal. Yeah. Right. And I think it's imminently doable. I'm not saying capitalism is wrong. It's a economic system, not a moral system. So you take your morality and you input it into the capitalistic system, and then hopefully you can navigate that and be successful. But I just feel convicted more and more these days that I can't just sit on the sidelines. I can't be silent about certain things. And that's really tough, because there's real political and social issues that I feel strongly about, that I have to decide when I'm streaming or when I make content, whether or not and how to input those things into that content. Yeah. I have a rule on my Twitch stream where we don't talk politics. But if you have a personal belief system that you want to express in time, you can, because I express my Christianity on my stream, and I want to give that equal speech, or that equal access to anybody, because I'm going to say it. I'm going to talk about Jesus Christ and how awesome he is. And if you think there is no God and that's awesome, or there are no objectively moral things in this world, okay, you can say that too, man,
Yeah.
and we can, we can have understanding, if not agreement on something.
Exactly. That's an amazing thing that you're providing, especially for a younger audience, because what we have right now, the status quo is outrage. You say something I don't like, outrage instantly. And we do it on both sides, rather than sit down and engage in civil discourse. We want to immediately go to these friggin' topics that instantly flare up one side or the other, rather than say, you're an American, I value you as a human being, let's engage in discussion, let's engage. It's okay to try to sway, it's okay to engage passionately, but you don't have to resort to calling each other fascists, Hitler, Nazis, and all sorts of vile words. No, at the end of the day, that's a human being. At the end of the day, that is a living, breathing human being. It's an American citizen. It's somebody that you should be able to find a common ground with. And we're never going to get there unless we start having these discussions and being able to give that example to younger audience. That's such a noble thing to do. And while still staying true to yourself, not trying to placate and trying to flip the script and be somebody else that you're not, which you see that a lot these days. You see this mask come on the moment they're in and they're engaging, and the moment they're out, they're like, oh, no, that's a role. I play a role. I stream and I'm this person. Outside of that, I'm this person. I'm like, no, dude, have enough balls and have the courage to be who you are. And that doesn't mean you have to be hurtful and mean. That just means that you can go out there and present yourself and be passionate about what you truly believe in. In this world of being a creator, people tend to think that it's just wake up, get on a video game, and then you're just playing video games, having a fun time. Like, yeah, I'm going to record a podcast. It's a great time. There's so much more to it. There's this idea that you have to be your own operations manager. You have to be your own publicity team. You have to be your own marketing team. How do you manage the day-to-day operations, and can you give us a glimpse into your world and how you make this happen? Because it's something that I know I was struggling to figure out, and I kind of put it together. I kind of took all the resources that I had from being a warrant officer, from going to a project manager's course, to being a scrum master, and realizing like all these little things were valuable. And once I started applying them to my own life as a creator, as a podcaster, I realized that, oh shit, I don't need the cavalry. I don't need a PR team. I don't need a social media team. I can do this.
Man, that's big. It's a big question. First of all, let me say that I'm not special. I'm not smarter than anybody else. I'm a regular guy. I would even say that there's some stuff that I struggle with that hinders my ability to format my time and be effective in my time management and pursue a creative career. All that to say, the world there's so many resources out there, and and like you say, you talked about it a little bit. There are, I think, universal principles for success, or for time management, for conflict resolution, for emotional intelligence, for engaging with other people and working in a creative space, and working through those kinds of, there are ideas that they just keep coming back, and they're universal and they're timeless, and they're out there, and you can find them, and it may take a while, but even the process is helpful, right? It's not so much, at the end of the day, if I've made a video, I'm successful. It's striving and struggling through all that kind of stuff, cutting through the weeds and watching a video or having a conversation, reaching out to somebody for help. They're all out there. So that's a big old long preface to, I try to look at my week, maybe on a Sunday. Can you hear that?
No.
Okay, good. Uh,
Don't worry, I've got really good processing stuff, and I'll
okay,
take
good.
pretty much everything.
All right, good. Because my office is my living room, and the street's like right out there. But so where I'm at right now, right, and the process is always evolving. So give yourself the grace to evolve your process and improve it. So, look at my week. Saturdays, usually Sunday. I kind of take some time to kind of look at my week. What have I got coming up? What are my highest priorities? And 1, 2, 3, in terms of most important to maybe not so important. Usually it's a time-based kind of thing like this. Like after we're done here, I got to work on some podcast episodes. And so me and my buddies Cameron and Chris, we text each other ideas, and we decide, and then we divvy up who's going to work on what episodes, and then we all kind of fill it in afterwards. So
nice.
I look at podcasts. It's I've got categories. I got Twitch, my live stream, I got the podcast, and now I've got the channels that I work on with my buddy French Mike. He's over in France, and so we have to work that out. What do I have to do today? Thankfully, I have a partner. My buddy French Mike is like super. He's like super hardcore, high functioning kind of guy. So he's got maps and charts and task lists for me to do. So that's super easy for me because all I got to do is look there, and then I know what I'm going to be doing. So,
and what projects do you guys work together on?
We work on. I've got a horror gaming channel called the Izzy Files. This is meant to kind of build a library of content in the video game space. It's pretty saturated. The channel's not right now so successful, but it's getting the name out there. It's creating a different brand and a different feel for what I've been known for in the past, which was my military stuff.
Yeah.
And then we're working on a second channel that's going to have more to do with the video game space right now. It's going to be a little more involved, a little more production oriented stuff. So that's what we're working on right now. So I've got Twitch, I've got the video game channels, I've got the podcast, and those are kind of the big three right now. And then I've got my hard times. I stream Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and I've got times for those. So those are blocked out, and I use iCalendar a lot, and I got color coordinated stuff for different areas of my life. I've got personal, religious. I've got time, content creation. I've got social stuff. Those are blocked off, and then I've got hard times like me and the wife. My wife is so amazing. We get up every morning at 5 a.m. We go to the gym. We work out together. And I've got a little side project where I signed up for my very first tactical games event, which is kind of CrossFitters who shoot or shooters who do CrossFit. So it's a combination, kind of a competitive. And because I need goals, I need specific time-based structured goals to keep me focused because I'm easily distracted. So I've got that kind of stuff. So all the hard times are in there. And then I just kind of fill it in by priority. And it's usually the beginning of the week and earlier in the day is when I'm most productive. I know that about myself. So if you don't know that about yourself, maybe ask yourself that and look at some YouTube videos. YouTube's such a great resource because they can at least, if it's not the end of your research, it can be the beginning. It can kind of spark an idea and get something rolling, and then you kind of work on it from there, and everybody has their own process. So it's earlier in the mornings and then earlier in the week, hopefully. And hopefully by the end of the week, I've got most of my high priority stuff done. And then by the end of the week, I'm kind of doing a little more kind of maybe personal projects or social events. We're having some people over for dinner here in a couple nights, me and the wife, because that's a priority for us. And so, things like that, to where hopefully on a Saturday, I have nothing to do. And me and the wife sit in, we have our coffee, we sit out on the porch, and we don't really do anything that day because rest is just as important a part of the work process as the work itself. And so that's a principle that I try to live by. So I guess what I'm trying to say is I, in the creative work from home kind of personally driven business owner, maybe quote unquote business owner sense, I have to create my own structure, my own timelines. I have to learn how to prioritize. I have to be accountable to my business partners, and I have to understand how our relationship is, what the dynamics are with that. And then especially with French Mike and this new endeavor, how do we work together creatively? Because that is a really new and engaging and challenging space for me to be in, because as much as I've wanted to be in the creative space, or as much as I am in it now, I consider myself to be a very straightforward analytical person. Like, I like lists and I like easily achievable things and I like steps to everything. But there is still an artistic bent that I have always had, which I think is pretty pure. And so yeah, I hope that kind of gives you some insight into
Absolutely.
my week. I think that universal and timeless principles, they're all there. And then depending on what you're doing, you apply them in different ways, or you don't. Like, time management is time management, and efficiency is efficiency. And you could slice that 100 different ways, but you can't get away from it.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of what my week looks like, and it's in flux. I'll tell you something about myself. I like novelty, and I like doing things differently. I couldn't go to an office every day and do the same thing. Now, if I went to an office every day and did different things, that's cool. But I like the challenge and the freedom and the responsibility of pursuing a self-propelled creative career, because it's a lot bigger responsibility, but it is very rewarding and very satisfying.
Yeah, it comes with a lot of ambiguity and a lot of flexibility and a lot of having to think outside the box. But I couldn't think of a better demographic of individuals better suited for this type of job than soft professionals or active service members. So it shouldn't be something that scares you. It should be something that excites you. The opportunities are out there. We've seen the success within our own community. We've seen guys that have made it and are thriving in it. So that should tell you that there is an opportunity. You don't have to do the same thing. Oftentimes people think that idea that, I need to be the next Mr. Beast or Mr. Ball. I need to be the next group of guys and do exactly. No, that's not going to work. There's already somebody like that. Be you. Be your own authentic self. And if you have something worth sharing with the world, be crazy enough, be audacious enough, be willing to do it, because that's what people want to see. They don't want to see the same. I mean, there's already David Goggins. There's already a Jocko Willink. We don't need any more of that. We need you out there being willing to create something of purpose, of service to individuals. So yeah, just be brave enough. If you're listening to this and you find this to be your calling, go into it, my man or lady. Be willing to do what you're passionate about, and don't for one second let fear be part of the equation or be so paralyzing that you walk away from it and ultimately choose something that's ill-fitting, because that's not going to lead you to success. You're going to be very angry and bitter that you didn't take your own dreams and make them a reality. Real quick, tell us about your next projects. How can we get, what are your handles? How can we be part of your Twitch community? Tell us everything, my man.
Yeah, man. Yeah. If you just want to see me on the internet, Gameology, Spec Ops, React, those are the kind of the beginnings of my content creation career. That's what I'm most known for. Me and my buddy Cameron Fath, former Army Ranger from Second Bat, reviewing video games. We also do that now, more recently in our content with Pop Culture Field Manual YouTube. It's connected to our Pop Culture Field Manual podcast. You can listen to that wherever you listen to podcasts on all platforms. We've been doing that for a couple of years. The Is Files is my horror gaming channel, and I've got another one that's in the pipe that me and my buddy French Mike are working on. And you can see me every week, 3 times a week on twitch.tv/myhappyself. My Happy Self is my Twitch stream. It's Mondays and Wednesdays, 1 to 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and then Friday mornings, 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. So, and I got a Discord server if you want to come and join the Discord community. I'm all over Israel Wright Official, Israel Wright, if you Google Twitter, or formerly known as Twitter. And then Instagram is where I'm most active. It's where you can stay up on the latest and greatest stuff that I am doing. But yeah, man, I'm all over the internet, man. So you can find me. And I'll say this, I am not yet big enough or successful enough that I don't answer my DMs in Instagram or X. So if you're somebody out there, a young guy or girl, or just anybody that wants to reach out, it may take me a while to get back to you, but I will get back to you, because the authentic engagement is something that I take very seriously and that I value. There's always a balancing act between personal life and social engagement.
Yeah.
But I think I've struck a pretty good balance. And so, yeah, reach out to me if you want to reach out, and just wait patiently for my reply.
Absolutely. And if you weren't able to write all that stuff down, just head on over to the episode description. All the information will be posted below. You just type with your little fingers and get a hold of Israel. Thank you so much for being here, man. Thank you for being a passionate advocate, for just being yourself and doing what you love. One last thing, how badass is Helldivers 2?
Oh, I'm addicted, man. It's amazing. There's nothing feels better than spreading democracy and freedom with your friends, against the fascist, socialist, tyrannids, the Terminids and the automatons. So remember the creek.
That's right. Take care, brother, and we'll see you all next time.
Thanks, Daddy.